So we got the next two entries in the Pokemon series announced, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. We'll be exploring the Galar region, and we have 3 new starter Pokemon to pick from, Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble. The Galar region is based on the United Kingdom, and our 3 starter Pokemon are once again a fire starter, a water starter, and a grass starter. As with any new entry in the Pokemon series, the internet is going crazy speculating and just trying to figure out what else we might be able to learn from this trailer and the images that we got, what we can see from this game. So people are looking really closely, coming up with all sorts of interesting fan theories and stuff, and there were a couple leaks that actually guessed Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. So I'm going to go over those leaks first, and then I'm going to dive into some theories of what might possibly be going on with these starter Pokemon, what might possibly be going on with this new region, and yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so the first leak I have to highlight that guessed Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield is this one from over on 4chan. It says, screen cap this, legit, and this was posted on Thursday, February 21st, so about a week before we got the actual direct. It says, this is it, believe it now or later. Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Okay, so that's totally right. Those are the games we got. Region is Great Britain. Yep, that's what we got. We got the UK, so yep, perfect guess there. Legendary Pokemon are Metal Snake and Wooden Horse. Now, we haven't seen that, but those first 2 things it guessed are totally right. Armored Evolutions, Armored Charizard, Armored Mewtwo, Armored Flygon, Armored Zeriora. Meltan ties into Armored Evolution and Legendary lore. Now, obviously, we did not see any of those Armored Evolutions. The trailer was totally devoid of anything like that. But I am kind of thinking this is probably a real leak. We did not see our 2 legendaries, but the reason I'm believing this one is because not only did it guess Pokemon Sword, Pokemon Shield, and the region, which some other things have guessed, but it also, this Armored Evolution tying into Meltan makes a lot of sense. A lot of times, Pokemon will release a Pokemon before the game comes out, and that Pokemon will then be more important later. And Meltan kind of has that. We don't really know why exactly Meltan was highlighted, why it's important. And from the trailer, we can see this shot. It appears to be some sort of probably Pokemon etching on the side of a hill. Most likely, this is a reference to the Cerne Abbas Giant, which is in Great Britain. And if you look closely, it looks like there's little creatures at its feet that appear to be Meltan. So if we are getting like a armored legendary or armored Pokemon are a big part of this, and somehow Meltan maybe creates that armor or something, yeah, this could be a real leak, and we have some evidence from the actual trailer that supports this. So because of that evidence, that's the leak that I'm looking at the closest. That's the leak that I'm kind of trusting. I believe that one's probably real, and I'm expecting us to get armored Pokemon now, and probably that legendary snake and legendary horse Pokemon. Okay, so moving on, I have another 4chan leak that had the names correctly for this Pokemon series. This one was posted on Thursday, the 14th of February, so a week before that other leak. This one has a picture of a Yu-Gi-Oh card that says Shield and Sword, and it says Pokemon Sword and Shield, Britain region, London-style town as the generic big city. Again, that's correct and in line with the other leak. It says, big new mechanic are hybrid Pokemon, around 15, obviously acquired through daycare. Some parents are version exclusive. Direct in March, will be announced at Pokemon Day. Okay, so this one's spot on as well. It has Sword and Shield. It has, Great Britain and London, being thematically what the game's kind of looking like. It has the date of the Direct, though that was pretty guessable. I personally even said that I thought the 27th was when we'd get the Pokemon Direct. And then the mechanic being hybrid Pokemon's interesting. It's possible they do mean these armored Pokemon, especially if Meltan is part of that armored Pokemon thing, then maybe you take Meltan and you hybrid it with some other Pokemon, and that Pokemon then has armor. So that could work. It seems a little bit like they're saying parent Pokemon in the daycare, that hybrid Pokemon would mean like actually breeding 2 different Pokemon together to get something else. That's also possibly a mechanic, or it could be some early concept of the armored idea. Maybe it's the same person that posted that other 4chan leak a week later. So it's possible that this person they'd heard something about combining Pokemon in some way, called it hybrid Pokemon, tried to figure out what it was, and then later on figured out it was actually armor and it's going to involve Meltan. So I don't know, I'm kind of linking those 2 together where they don't necessarily have to be linked, but it's possible that they are. So I'm, again, more leaning towards the armored Pokemon leak than this one, but they could both happen. It's possible we could get hybrid Pokemon and armored Pokemon. There's no thing saying we could only get one new type of Pokemon. And then I have another, this is the final 4chan leak. This one comes from November 20th, so this was a while ago. And this one it's labeling itself as a fun idea for Gen 8, but it actually guessed quite a few things that we have seen already and is in line with some of those leaks I was just talking about. So it says, fun idea for Gen 8. Game names Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is totally right. That's what we got. Region based off Scandinavia. Now that's not correct. We got Great Britain. However, let's say this person maybe saw a very early build of the game, was just going off of like the windmills and stuff that were seen. It's possible if they saw a very small amount of the game, they could have just been guessing at Scandinavia. So again, still worth looking at. Starters are a grass bug spider, not what we got, a fire rabbit, exactly what we got, and a water iguana, again, exactly what we got. So they got 2 out of the 3 starters totally right. Final evolutions are grass bug, fire electric. Fire electric would be really interesting, and pure water. Box legendaries are a dragon and a Pegasus. One is, of course, dragon, and the other is fairy. This would fit really well with Great Britain, considering like the Pegasus and the dragon. I think the dragon is the symbol for Wales, and the Pegasus I think is the symbol for Scotland. So yeah, that would make sense here. A new and rare type of Pokemon will be in the region called Elementals. There are Elementals that represent one of each existing type. 3 of these Elementals will act as a second starter for you early in the game. You will receive the Flying Rock or Fighting Elemental. New battle mechanic will be Elemental Armors. Okay, so once again we have the armor idea that was in that first leak I talked about. So yeah, the armor idea is coming back here, so that's kind of interesting. At the cost of 1 Elemental in your team slot, it will be equipped to a Pokemon on your team, giving it a secondary type for the corresponding element. Examples, Lucario would have its Steel type replaced by Dark type if equipped with a Dark Elemental. Each Elemental armor will also boost a certain stat. Example, Flying will boost speed tremendously. And it will also grant an ability over the Pokemon's original. Example, Overgrow would be replaced with Solid Rock, with the Rock Elemental equipped. Box legendaries are Dragon and Fairy Elementals. Evil team will be Vikings that simply try to conquer the region, as well as seizing the legendaries. Okay, so again, this was labeled as a fun idea for Gen 8, but it guessed the right name, it got some of the starters totally right, and even has this elemental armor idea, which actually kind of fits with that other leak that I was talking about earlier. So yeah, this is possibly not a fun idea and was actually someone maybe giving us some information, especially if it was early on and they were thinking about doing Scandinavia and instead changed to Great Britain, where this person only saw parts of the game. It's possible this was a very early in development ideas and maybe some things changed. So yeah, I think this one's pretty interesting. Again, it could just be a fun idea. Maybe this person just got really lucky. A lot of people make guesses at what they think could happen with Pokemon. So yeah, maybe it just got lucky, but maybe not. Maybe some of this stuff will come true. So I thought it was worth highlighting. The next Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield leak I have to look at is actually an image leak. So here it is. It's a picture of what is assumedly Scorbunny's final evolution, and it looks to be some sort of like fighter jet themed rabbit Pokemon. It looks really cool. It's definitely a fire rabbit, so yeah, I got that right. That is one of our starter Pokemon, and it is like concept art. And this is very similar to what we saw with like Incineroar's concept art. It's got different parts of like the body shown, like what that Pokemon does when it attacks and how it like changes and can move. Which is really helpful for like animators. So it's possible this is coming from like the animation team for the anime. It's also possible, if that armor idea is to be believed, that maybe this isn't Scorbunny's final evolution. Maybe this is the final evolution with armor. It does appear to have, like, again, a sort of jet look to it, like it's made out of steel or something. So maybe this is just what Scorbunny's final evolution looks like with armor, which might be something all the starters have, an armored version. While this looks very detailed and very much so like the type of concept art that would be legitimate, we always have to be careful because people are really good at making fake Pokemon these days. People make a lot of drawings and stuff that look very legit, so we have to kind of scrutinize this one. So some issues with it are that you can see this Pokemon is shown in silhouette next to the main female protagonist from Pokemon Moon. So that's kind of just to give like the height of the Pokemon. Again, if this was concept art for the animators for the anime, they'd need to know the Pokemon's height and stuff like that. So maybe that's why that's there, but it's interesting they use the protagonist from the last set of games and not the new protagonist. Now it is possible that maybe they had the starter Pokemon's final evolutions all finished and stuff, spin-off and they want to get those ready for the anime, and they didn't have the protagonist ready, so they used the last set of games protagonist. That is totally possible, of course. When you're animating something, you need to have it far in advance, so it's possible that they had finished up the starter Pokemon designs, but not the protagonist designs, and still wanted to show the animators the height of the Pokemon, so they used the last game's protagonist. The other issue with it is that you can see very faintly the kind of watermark of a Facebook and an Instagram. If you invert the colors in the background, you can see it much better, and people seem to think that, oh man, this might just be the artist's pages. However, trying to look it up, I was not able to actually find it, so maybe it's been removed. I don't know what that could mean, if that means that the artist wanted to take credit and then decided to put it off as a fake leak or something. I don't know. But it does appear to be Korean, which would make sense, again, if it was actual concept art for the anime, as some of that would be animated in Korea. It is possible one of the Korean animators or a friend of a Korean animator got a hold of this concept art and stuck it up on their Instagram and then took it down, or their Instagram was taken down. I don't know for sure, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's conclusive whether or not this is real, but it's a bit of a hit against it that it does trace back to someone's Instagram. And then the final decent leak I have comes from Polar Panda. So Polar Panda over on my Discord said this: "The guy who gave me this info isn't my source. He's fairly popular on Twitter and is ultra active in the Pokemon leak scene. What he told me he's heard is a spin-off game, a mobile game, Detective Pikachu port or sequel. At least one, if not all of these will happen." So Polar Panda is saying this isn't their main source or anything. So yeah, if these things don't come to pass, do not hold this against Polar Panda whatsoever. This is sort of just, they heard it from someone who seems to have Pokemon leaks sometimes. And these are just for other things that might happen with Pokemon. A spin-off game, a mobile game, and something with Detective Pikachu, all of which seem really likely. I mean, Pokemon most likely will get some other spin-off title. Pokemon's a big game series. They almost always do. Something for mobile, yeah, makes sense. And then Detective Pikachu with the movie coming out, I would assume they would try to push that. Polar Panda goes on to say, haven't gotten a name on whatever spin-off it may be. If it's happening this year, maybe Mystery Dungeon. Mystery Dungeon would be really cool in my opinion, but again, that's totally speculation. And Polar Panda is saying this isn't coming from their source. It's just someone who they know as a Pokemon leak scene person on Twitter. So yeah, who knows if this is real or not, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Okay, so that's all the decent leaks I've seen, or possible leaks, potential leaks. But let's dive into some theories now. First off, we can take a look at the map of Galar, and people have basically noticed the gyms, or the assumed gyms for the game. It appears that they look like these stadium-type things, so that could be soccer or, for the rest of the world, football themed stadiums, which we did see a little bit of that in the trailer, what appeared to be the trainer walking into like a football stadium. So yeah, those might be the gyms. Obviously we have that one tower that kind of looks like it might be a gym as well. I initially thought that was probably Big Ben, but upon further inspection, that's probably a tower in Manchester. England has a lot of clock towers, so my mind instantly went to like Big Ben, and it was right for the country, but probably not the area. That middle town probably is Manchester, actually, and that tower might now be a Pokemon gym. The Galar equivalency to London is most likely up at the top of the map. We have the Eye of London Ferris wheel and what appears to be like Big Ben. So yeah, it's probably that top city that's London, and that middle city is actually Manchester. We also have some stone structures and things that could be Stonehenge, and like I said before, we have that ancient outline that's probably supposed to be the Carne Abbas giant. So yeah, it does look like this is focusing a bit on England's old ancient history, like almost Stone Age history. So going back to the gyms, it appears that the gyms have this symbol on them, and it also looks like the protagonist character has that symbol on their clothing, which seems to change when they go into these stadium things. I'm assuming they're gyms. They may be something else. This symbol seems to be on the gates to, again, what I assume is the gym, and it's also on the symbol for Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. It's like this red and blue kind of circle thing, and it's very similar to something that's from the Pokemon card games, the Sun and Moon team-up abilities. So yeah, it could be something with a tag team type gym battle thing, again, if there is something like hybrid Pokemon or Pokemon armor that may involve combining a Pokemon with another Pokemon, such as Meltan, this could be further proof of that happening. Some sort of team up, some new battle system. We can also see this train on the map for Galar, and it's possible that this train could go to some other region post-game, which would be really cool. Kind of like how Gold and Silver go from Johto back over to Kanto. A really interesting idea would be if this is supposed to be Great Britain, maybe that train will bring you over to Kalos, which is supposed to be France. So those are obviously really close to each other in the real world. So in the Pokemon world, it would be cool if the post-game was revisiting Kalos. Also possible the post-game could go to like a new region, maybe something that's like Galar's equivalent to Ireland as some post-game section. You take a train over there. That'd be cool too. It's also possible there's nothing like that in the post-game. Who knows? The Pokemon Company sometimes gives us awesome stuff for post-game, and sometimes it feels like there's almost no post-game at all. So before I get off the map here and start talking about the starter Pokemon and theories about them, I just want to point out real quick one more time that drawing on the side of the hill, and I want to read something from Melmetal's Pokedex entry. It says, revered long ago for its capacity to create iron from nothing, for some reason it has come back to life after 3,000 years. So again, if it's focusing on like Stone Age and ancient civilizations here. Obviously the Iron Age is a big part of all that. So yeah, it's possible Melmetal and Meltan are parts of some huge plot here with ancient Pokemon as they've come back. And of course, we can see what appears to be Meltan on that same drawing, that carving on the side of the hill. Also, Professor Oak says it's described in the text, there's no mistaking it, it's Melmetal in Pokemon Go, and they show like ancient text. So although these Pokemon seem like they're, steel type, kind of man-made looking creatures, they are in fact ancient. The Pokemon lore does say these are ancient creatures. Okay, so now let's talk about theories involving our 3 starter Pokemon finally. First off, I'd just like to say that I totally called Scorbunny a fire rabbit, Chinese zodiac sign. So yeah, that whole theory about all the fire starters being based on the Chinese zodiac continues to be right, and Scorbunny marks off another one, the rabbit Chinese zodiac sign, which again is my Chinese zodiac sign. So I'm totally getting Scorbunny. I'm very excited about that one. So that marks off the fire starter, continuing the zodiac sign theme. However, there are some other themes for the grass and water starter Pokemon. So the grass Pokemon are always based off of extinct creatures. Even Decidueye was a distinct owl from Hawaii. So it looks like we got Grookey here is, a grass monkey, and he does kind of have a caveman quality. He's got like the stick in his hair is very like stick in the hair of like a caveman, or like a bone in the caveman hair. And there were actually monkeys in the Tower of London at one time. I don't think they were native. I think they were brought there. But yeah, there's a possibility here that he's based on that. Grookey is based on the fact that there used to be monkeys in England at the Tower of London, and they're now are not anymore. So those monkeys are extinct. I don't know if that is exactly the same as like a native creature that was once there that's extinct, but he does again kind of have that caveman quality. So we'll see if the ancient structures such as Stonehenge and the Carne Abyss giant, if those things continue to be a main theme. Maybe Grookey is also falling in line with that theme of Stone Age creatures and stuff. The water Pokemon are always themed after weapons, supposedly. So I don't know what Sobble's weapon is, though I will say in the past, if you just were able to look at Squirtle, you would not be able to give that creature the distinction of, oh, it's based on a cannon. You don't get that until the final evolution. So it's possible with Sobble, we will not see what weapon it represents until it's fully evolved. Another possible theory for a theme that these 3 Pokemon could represent is sports specifically that are popular in the UK. So Scorbunny is pretty much the easiest one. Obviously, it has those big feet. Rabbits are really fast, so that could be football or soccer, no matter what part of the world you are in and what you call that. I think that one's probably the most likely to be definitely right. Also, the name Scorbunny can be Scorch and Bunny, thus a fire bunny, but also like a bunny that keeps score or scores a lot of goals or something like that. So I do think that that is probably the theme for Scorbunny, something to do with soccer, football, and sports in general. people have pointed out that Grookey has his little wooden club there, so that's possibly a reference to cricket, which is played with a wooden stick. A bit more of a stretch, but yeah, it does actually fit. And then Sobble, people have said he might be rugby. I haven't seen too much to support this yet, except for Sobble has kind of a stance where he has like his arms like this, like he's getting ready to maybe like hike a ball or catch a ball. So it's possible this theme runs throughout all three of these. I'm not totally sold on it, but I think Scorbunny is spot on. I think Scorbunny is indeed going to be sports themed in some way. Another interesting and kind of bizarre theme all three of these Pokemon have is the Powerpuff Girls, of all things. The colors match up, so we have Blossom's red for the fire Pokemon, Bubbles, who's blue for the blue Pokemon, and Buttercup, who's green for our green Pokemon. So yeah, we got the fire, water, grass, they're all there. But even more interestingly, the Pokemon's designs actually kind of mirror the Powerpuff Girls. Scorbunny has kind of Blossom's like bow, Bubbles' hair is kind of on Sobble, and then Grookey has like ears kind of like the side of Buttercup's hair. And again, all the colors match. Even Bubbles has like both the blonde hair and the blue. It works with Sobble. So yeah, actually surprisingly, I think this one might be true as kind of a tribute. Seems a little strange, but Japan actually really loves the Powerpuff Girls. They made their own version of the show. They loved it so much. So yeah, it's possible these are actually a tribute, which is pretty interesting. And now some theories for what these Pokemon's final evolutions could be. So Scorbunny, we have that concept art of a final evolution, so yeah, that's probably the most likely one. I don't know if that one's real or not. I'm kind of 50-50 on it, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with Scorbunny. Either it's going to look like that, or it's going to be sports themed. That would be my guess. It's also possible it's like fire electric or something, because it seemed really fast, which would be a really cool typing for it. So now the other one, Sobble, I think would be really cool if it was a tribute to the Loch Ness Monster, seeing as we're in the UK, and it has that kind of quality to it. It's also possible it could gain maybe like a ghost typing because it was invisible when we first saw it, so that would be cool too. Then for Grookey, I've heard it suggested Hanuman, like a monkey with a staff, could be possible. That was kind of what happened with Chimchar, but because Grookey actually has a little hairpin that's made out of wood, it's possible that that continues to grow as it evolves and eventually becomes a staff, and thus Grookey could fit Hanuman really well. A couple other really interesting theories. At Misk Dog had this theory. They said, big brain boys, grass type hitting a rock, fire type running on steel, water type probably psychic, I don't know. Also shout outs to at PapaGenos for the history tip, the pick of the monkeys in the Tower of London, solidifying the case for grass rock starter. So that's really interesting. If you notice, Grookey does actually tap a rock, and Scorbunny actually does run on something steel, and then Sobble is invisible when we first see him. So at Misk Dog here is guessing it could be psychic. I was guessing possibly ghost, or it might just be acid armor, but that could also be water poison. So yeah, also the Tower of London thing, those monkeys, the actual picture that I showed, are actually statues of monkeys at the Tower of London. They now have statues kind of honoring the monkeys that used to be there, so that's also possible that this could become a grass rock starter. And then that concept art we have for the possible final evolution of Scorbunny did in fact look very steel, so a fire steel type could be happening here. A buddy of mine also on my Twitter messaged me and suggested this. It's possible that Grookey eventually becomes a grass steel type, as in it starts off as just grass using the stick, then it becomes grass rock, and then grass steel. This could again go with that theme of ancient times, or even evolving, like tools over time, the tools that man used, or the evolution of man, using a stick, using stone tools, and then finally using steel. So it's possible his final evolution is something like a knight or something with a steel sword, but he starts off as kind of like a caveman with a stick. Could be really interesting. So that's all the interesting leaks and cool theories and speculation I've noticed over the last like 24 hours here looking at all this stuff. We're still very early on in this though, so I'm sure people will notice even more stuff, have even more interesting theories and ideas. So if you guys have any interesting theories or ideas or anything to add to any of the stuff I talked about in this video, please leave a comment below. I'd love to read that. I'm really excited for this game, really hoping some of this stuff actually comes true, as I think a lot of this is pretty interesting. So yeah, thanks for watching. So once again, thank you guys for all the subscribes, all the likes. It really helps out the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, or like the video, or leave a comment, whatever you want. Until next time, have a good one.